Hi algebra students, this is our introduction video for our lesson describing and graphing functions. This is our first lesson for our unit on functions, so a good starting point is what is a function? And I like to use this example of a vending machine to help explain what functions are. If we look at the vending machine, there's two pieces of information we can learn. We can learn what type of items are in the vending machine, what type of candy, and then the price for each of those candies. So for example, I could look at the vending machine. I see that there are Twix in the vending machine, and if I look at the price, I can see Twix costs 80 cents. And we could keep doing this, right? Do you see how much Snickers cost? Snickers are also 80 cents. And then do you see how much M&Ms cost? M&Ms are $1. And so we could keep doing this if we want. If I reversed the table where I'm starting with price, for example, I could say there's something in the vending machine that costs 80 cents. What is it? That's a little harder. It's a little more confusing because there are many answers you could give me for that. You could tell me Skittles, you could tell me Snickers, you could tell me Twix. There's a lot of different answers. When we talk about functions, this first one is an example of a function where each item I put down, there was only one correct answer for the price. The second table that wasn't really working out, this is not an example of a function. Our definition of function is a relationship where each input has only one output. And our definition uses these words input and output. Your input is just the thing you are starting with. And so for example, here our input is the item in the vending machine. And notice every single time there was only one output. There was only one price you could tell me. Looking at this picture, there is only one price for Twix. For this other table that didn't work out, I made price my input, but the problem was there was going to be a lot of different outputs. There was going to be more than one, which is why the second example is not a function. In today's lesson, one of the things we're going to be looking at is if something is a function or not. The other thing we are going to see, not just in today's lesson, but I think every single lesson in this unit, is this function language. Lots of times when a situation or story is introduced to us, it's going to use this phrase, is a function of. And when you see those words, is a function of, it's important we understand the way that sentence is written. When you see those words, what comes before those words is always going to be your output. And what comes after those words is always going to be your input. Depending on the situation, instead of output and input, you might hear the words dependent variable and independent variable. I know that's something we talk about in our pre-algebra class if you took pre-algebra with us. If you're given a graph instead of a story, your output is always what you see on your y-axis, and your input is always what's on the x-axis of your graph. So you can think about it, if you had a graph, this is where the input would be, and this is always where the output would be. So there's a lot of different words you could use for those, output, dependent variable, that y value, but they always represent the same thing. So for example, in this situation here, we said the input was the item in the vending machine and the output was price. A sentence I might see to describe this is that the price is a function of the item in the vending machine. Something like that. And when I see that sentence, it helps me know that price would be our output, and then that item in the vending machine is our input. That's going to be helpful for a ton of different things that we are learning in this unit. So using this as an example, I've got practice for you. and I'll keep that up there on the screen. Go ahead, pause this video in a moment, and you're going to read through this story and write a sentence similar to this one. You're going to write a sentence using those words, is a function of. Please try this problem, pause the video to try it, and then come back to the video to see how you did. So I've gone ahead and I've got us started, but the starting point for this is always going to be identifying what is your input and what is your output. And if you want, you could use the words independent and dependent variable. It's the same idea, but I cannot write this sentence until I know those things. What's my input and what's my output? In this story, the way I personally do it, it uses those words depends on, so that helps me know if the distance is the one that depends. It helps me know that it's my dependent variable, or in this situation, our output. If I were to create a graph of Lupita going on this walk, the distance would be the thing I would want on my y-axis, which means our other one, the minutes, that is going to be our input, or your independent variable. That minutes would be what I would want on my x-axis. We have to start by doing this, by knowing what our input and output are. After you know that, it makes writing the sentence pretty easy, as long as we remember you always start with the output. So my sentence would say, distance is a function of the minutes she walks. Something like that. In future lessons, we're going to see stories where this is a sentence in the story, and that's how we are going to help identify that distance, in this case, is our output, and the minutes is our input. And like I said, that's going to help us do a lot of different things in this unit. Thanks so much for watching. You are all ready for today's video, and I hope you found this helpful. Bye.